Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 19 playthrough with the Reds, the GM challenge that I've been doing. We are at the start of spring training for the 2019 season. So the off season is officially over. I don't expect I'll have to make any more moves unless, knock on wood, unless some injuries happen during the playing out some games in spring training. But where we're at as a team, I think I made a few good moves in the offseason. I really do. There were only, honestly, 3 free agent signings. Didn't have a whole lot of money to play with this year. Although next year, going to have a lot of money for extensions. So it's possible. Going into next year we'll have a lot more to play with. But right now, one of the things that I noticed as I got to this, as I was loading the game up, I didn't realize, or maybe I forgot, but my owner was wanting me to acquire a locally popular player, and for some reason, Cole Hamels fit the bill. So if you were watching last episode, he was probably the biggest free agent signing. Well, he was the biggest free agent signing I had, so that'll tell you how big the offseason was. But I have some pretty high hopes for him. I think he can help stabilize that starting rotation, and an added bonus, he fulfilled an owner goal, so that might keep the owner happy for another year or two. As far as the rest of the offseason, I wanted to look at that real quick. The offseason center, it's going to probably look surprising, but if you go by team, and this is ranked by wins above replacement, we had the 6th best offseason in the league. And that's primarily from not losing a whole lot of players. I mean, the only players that we lost, we could afford to lose. Cliff Pennington had a .2 wins above replacement. These other guys really were at 0 or negative. And then I was able to pick up Lance Lynn. I was able to pick up Cole Hamels. Those were the guys that I wanted for the pitching staff and the money that I had. But I've also got another offer out here. And what happened to that offer? Oh, let me double check if he's already there. I thought that things were looking a little slim in that offense or the outfield once you got past the 3 starters that I'm going with. And so I picked up Para, who was only a 1.5-star player, but he's got some pretty good individual ratings, good personality class. He can bunt for a hit or sacrifice bunt, so I think he'll be a good pinch hitting option. And he can play the corners really well. Not as strong in center, but he's coming off a good year in Colorado. And I just thought that would be a good pick for the money. I signed him to a minor league contract, so didn't really have to invest a whole lot. But with that and the couple pitchers that I picked up, I'm hoping that we can perhaps make a little bit of a better move into the offseason, or a little bit better move in spring training. Maybe we'll have some guys who develop a little bit. One thing that did happen over the offseason that I was pretty happy with, Luis Castillo, he did pick some movement up. He was at 9 at the end of the last season. He's now up to 10. And for the pitching staff, Girardi's going with Castillo over Hamels, and let me see if he's going to stick with that. Yeah, he's sticking with that. So I think that's a pretty good mix, provided that Lynn gives me what I'm hoping that he gives me, and he'll be slotted in that 5th spot. And then hopefully Molly, who's still got some room to grow with movement, and his pitches are pretty okay. I mean, 3 pitches, I think that's adequate for a starter, but I hope he improves a little bit from last year. But one of the things that I am going to have to deal with this spring training that I usually don't is the amount of players that I have on the roster right now. I usually try to go with 30 to 35 max. I know you don't really get a whole lot of players that you can test when you go that low, but this is going to mean that I've got 15 guys I'm going to have to move either back to the minors or release when regular season comes around. So it's going to be pretty active once spring training winds down on this playthrough. One guy that I did decide to give a shot in spring training was Shedrick Long, who I had to put on the 40-man to protect him in the Rule 5 draft. More than likely he's going to start in AAA, but I think this guy is going to be a good option going forward if I can't sign Scooter Gennett. And Scooter Gennett, going into this offseason, he lost a few ratings, so he's already down to 2 stars. So it's a lot of money to pay for a 2-star player in this game. And I don't think there was any other parts of the team I wanted to highlight, but I did want to check out something before we get started, just with the new players we added. I wanted to see how the Reds' chemistry, how the team chemistry looked. So right now it's just listed as content. We don't have too many trouble players. DePaula, he's a little bit of a selfish player. I'm not really sure. He played quite a bit of time in AAA last year, or a little bit of time anyway. He might bounce back and forth between there and the majors. But for the most part, everybody's content and happy, so that's good. And one other note from the off-season, if you watched the last episode, the only person who made it to the Hall of Fame was Mariano Rivera, which is probably not that big of a surprise. Let me see if I can pull up the... Yeah, here's the Hall of Fame results. Todd Helton did come close in his first year, so I expect he'll make it in this playthrough. And then Holiday did too, 68.5. So those two guys might have a chance next year. But several people were dropped, namely Martinez. So I won't have that debate going forward in this playthrough. But let's go ahead and we're going to sim through spring training in this episode, and I'll probably have to look offline in terms of who I'm going to move up and down when regular season starts. But we'll just go ahead and start simming. I'm not too focused on the record, obviously, right now. I just really want to see us improve a little bit. And there's a few guys out there still in free agency, but nothing that I can necessarily afford. Last I checked, I mean, all players, I mean, Britton's out there. This guy's out there. Actually, his ratings are not that great, but I stayed away from him because of his personality. And then Daniel Hudson was somebody that I really thought about signing, and now I'm really even more thinking about signing because his control's not that great. He's had some tough years here and there in the majors. Last year wasn't too bad. Looks like he may have had some injuries, though. Yeah, he was gone for quite a bit of the season with an injury. But he could definitely give me some depth on that pitching staff. I mean, I've got a 3-star, 2.5, 3, 2.5, 2.5, 4. I don't really have a whole lot of depth on the bullpen. You know, I think he might be worth I really think he might be worth throwing out a contract. Let me see what my scout says about him. It says he could have some problems getting lefties out, but he's still okay against lefties, but he's really good against righties. I'm gonna see if this guy will. Yeah, 1.5. I'll see if he'll sign with us. I think that would be a pretty good addition to that bullpen. So we already got our first injury, Andrew Stevenson, but he's just a bench player. And looks like he's favoring it so far, but it's really early in negotiations for Hudson. So we're at 500 right now through 6 games. Now there's going to be a little bit of a bidding war here for Hudson. I'll go a little bit higher. I don't want to go too much higher though. I think 2 million, and that'll be as high as I want to go with him. So we're not doing too well. Looks like we got a 4 or 5 game losing streak going on here. So Andrew Stevenson, his recovery is unclear. I'm just going to put him on the DL and see if he gets better. When you see that recovery unclear, I've noticed it's just best at that point to put him on the DL for a while. Usually when they're healed, they'll be ready to come off the DL. And Bumgardner, who for some reason is listed as he's on the trading block. San Francisco did sign him for a pretty decent contract there. He's coming off an okay year, didn't play a full season. So we are really not doing too well. And then Cleveland's now in the bidding for Hudson. Let me check his career stats. He's been a starter before, but he's not going to be a starter now because his stamina is so low. And we do have some money. 2.1 million. That's as high as I'll go. We'll see what that gives me. And a scout found somebody in Venezuela. Nothing there. So we're really struggling in spring training. We finally get a win against Atlanta. And Zach Britton. It's tempting, but I'll probably give him a pass right now. It's not a bad value, honestly, for a 5-star closer, at $7.5 million. But it seems like he has been injury prone a little bit here of late. He missed over 2 months last year with injuries. So let's look real quick at the standings for spring training. Any major performances here? Oakland struggling at 2-9. Texas doing well at 9-2. St. Louis looking good at 8-3. We're 4-6. Not too far below 500. Let's see. If we finish around 500, I'll be okay. Oh, and that's what sometimes happens. What can I say? I signed Lance Lynn because 33 starts, 64 starts in 2 years. I thought, hey, this guy's healthy for a change. Nope, he's out for 4 months. So that's disappointing. Fortunately, I didn't put too much money into his contract, but that is going to set us back quite a bit. So I put him on a 60-day DL, and let me see. pretty sure I don't have anybody I'm overlooking in the minors. Yeah. So if I don't pick up another pitcher, Girardi goes with Sal Romano in that fifth spot. And honestly, if he doesn't get injured, I mean, I'm not losing too much. But I can tell you, the last time I looked at free agents, the starting pitching, it was really slim, and it's still slim. Gallardo's out there from us for last year. Nobody's picking him up. Just not much there. I'm going to have to rely on what I have. So let's go ahead and finish out this week. So we're back to 500. It's kind of making this Hudson it's making Hudson a little bit better of a deal if I have to go up a little bit more to get him. So 2.5, I'll go. It's just a 1-year contract, so I'm really going to need the depth now with that pitching, the rotation looking like it is. So a big game there to end the week, 10-0 over Milwaukee. And now Colorado's going for Hudson. I guess this will tell you how slim the free agent pitching is. $3 million. Okay, this will be my last. This will be my last attempt. And I want to look, since we're what is that, 16 games in, we're at 500. I want to look and see how we're playing. So I'll look at that pitching staff first. See if anything stands out. Castillo has looked really good in his starts. He's 3 starts, 12 innings of 1.50 ERA. Cole Hamels has been shaken up a little bit, 6.30 ERA. And then Molly has looked pretty good in his starts. Romano and Michael Wacha, you know, okay, 3 starts, 11 2/3 innings, 5.40 ERA. Bullpen, it's hard to see. Lorenzen, he's looked pretty good. Chad Green, he's looked okay. Robert Stevenson, he's not looking too bad, but I don't expect he'll make it to the final roster. But man, look at Jimmy Herget. He is really one of my best relievers right now, and he's struggling in the minors, or in spring training. Now let's look at the lineups. Batting, Barnhart's struggling, 167 batting average. Joey Votto's only at 233. Looks like Shedrick Long is getting a lot of the play time there at second, which is good. Nick Senzel's having a pretty good spring. Peraza's having a good spring. And how about Profar? Wow. 3 home runs, 16 RBIs. He may be, if I'm looking at the standings with the leaders, yeah, he's leading in batting average, first in RBIs. So I really planned on keeping Profar anyway, but that's going to make me feel a lot better about picking him up last year. So now we're going to go for another week. Still having a tough time getting to 500. Now Stevenson's back. I will probably keep Stevenson in the majors. The infield though is going to be. I mean, I guess I'm going to go with Jeanette. It looks like Shedrick Long is getting the start. And he's had a pretty solid spring. I'll have to see how he's looking as the spring training progresses. He hasn't played above AA, which doesn't scare me too much, but he hasn't looked great in AA. I don't think he's quite ready for the majors. That looks like a trade from Bruce Maxwell for McCarty. Not a major deal. And now Hudson. Of course, one of his personality traits is high in greed. $3.5 million. Let's see what else is out there. I don't think this guy is worth that much, to be honest. It's a gamble either way. I mean, what if I got Straup here? His personality rankings are a lot better, and he's had some good years there. He stumbled a little bit last year, but before that, he had 4 solid years with the Cubs. Let me see what Okay, they're saying he might struggle against lefties. His control is fairly low. But he doesn't give up a lot of hits. He's got good stuff and movement. 4 pitches. I'm going to try him. I'm really kind of... getting a little bit tired of dealing with the back and forth on the other guy. So now we're in a situation with him where there's a bidding war. And unfortunately, Profar is injured, but only for a day, so that's not too bad. And it looks like we might have been on a little bit of a winning streak. No, we're 10-12. Can't put it together. So we're about to the end of spring training. It's kind of not much time left. We're 10-12. It's a pretty tight division, though. 2 games between us and Pittsburgh. Seattle, Texas have had a good spring. Cleveland really had a good spring, 16-6. Tampa having a good one. Baltimore struggling. Mets looking good. Phillies and Marlins not so much. Colorado and the Dodgers having a good spring. We got any spring leaders? It's always hard to tell when it comes to this. I don't see any Reds on that list. This is for both leagues. Let me see about spring batting leaders. Profar might still be up there. Yeah, he's leading the both leagues in RBIs. Joey Votto has a lot of at-bats. Peraza has a lot of hits. He's having a good spring. But let's go ahead and try to finish it out, and we'll take a look at the individual performances. I'm almost forced to at this point if I wanna sign one of these guys. I've got a lot of back and forth going on here. And I don't think we're going to be able to. Nah, we've started to stumble there. I don't think we're going to finish at 500 in the spring. And there was a injury there to Votto, but I think it was just like a 5-day. Yeah, it's moderate, but it's just day to day, and we're at the last game. So let's go ahead and finish up here. Man, it looks like it's between us, Toronto, and Baltimore, or Boston. Yeah, and OSA doesn't really like him as much as my scout. You know, I will go one more time. 3.7 million, and that's it. Maybe if I don't pick him up, maybe I'll pick somebody up in trade later in the year, or keep scanning the waiver wire and see if I can get lucky there. So our player development report is out, and see if there's anybody here who's made some big improvements. Evan Mitchell was somebody I called up thinking he might have a chance to make the team, but I think he's going to wind up in AAA to start the year, and it's just mainly because of that stuff. It's not there yet, and he's 27, so I don't know if he's going to develop any more or much more. Garrett, his movement rating dropped. Looks like he's going to be back at AAA. Barnhart improved in a couple of things, his contact and overall, but Shedrick Long, he's now a 2-star player. I know he's had a pretty solid spring. I'll look at the numbers here in a minute, but I think I really want to start him at I want to start him in AAA because I've got Dilson Herrera, who could fill in at second. Jesse Winker improved quite a bit there. His contact's up to 16 now, and he's a 3.5-star overall from my scout. Phil Irvin improved a little bit. Andrew Stevenson picked up his contact rating. Power went up. He's now, what is that, a potential, it says potential 2.5-star, but he's probably going to stay on the roster, active roster. And Nick Longy at Pensacola, he made several improvements there. Hunter Green, who I've got right now in single A, hoping he keeps developing. Michael Beltre. A few positives there. Nothing that's earth-shattering, though. And now Pedro Strop. He's still looking for his contract. So let's go ahead and look at performances for the spring, and this is going to be a pretty tough task. Right away, I'm positive I'm going to be sending Rookie Davis back to Louisville, and he's got to clear waivers. It's probably going to be a lot of these guys, and I will go as I typically do. I'm going to go with a 12-man rotation, so I got a lot of guys here to wade through. Starting rotation is going to be set. I know some of these guys, Cole Hamels had a rough spring, 6.48 ERA. Tyler Mahle, the same. But that's going to be the rotation going into the season. There's not much I can do about that right now. Barrett Aston, he had a really tough spring as well. Austin Bryce didn't look too bad. DePaula struggled. Brandon Finnegan looked good. So I would, even though his movement is really bad, against lefties, he's he's such a power pitcher. He might be a good guy to have in there as a specialist. Evan Mitchell did look pretty good, actually, and fairly limited play, 7 innings, but a 1.23 ERA. Peralta looked terrible, but I think I'm going to be stuck with him as one of my lefty specialists. Tanner Rainey, he's not quite ready, so I know for sure this guy's going down to AAA. And same with Robert Stevenson, even though he had a really good spring. I just don't think he's ready to be full-time with those numbers. And he is going to have to be placed on waivers. So what does that bring us down to? We're 36 overall. We got 11 more guys to go. David Hernandez, who's signed a $2.5 million contract. His numbers aren't that great. His individual ratings, and he was just so-so in spring training. All right, so I'm gonna have some guys there. I gotta move. Probably Aston for sure is gonna go back down. And then let's look at the lineup too. So we're gonna have 13 guys on the offensive side. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. So I got 4 guys I gotta cut. And even though Herrera had a pretty good spring, I definitely like Parra, who had a great spring, and Stevenson. Even though Stevenson struggled, I'm going to give him a little bit of a chance because I like he can play center and got some speed off the bench. I think he's a little bit better player to have. Phil Irvin, he's going to go down to Louisville. And then Blandino, I got a lot of trade offers for him, and he's got a little bit better ratings from OSA, and he can play a few positions. Probably a decent choice to have on the bench, but not really ready to keep him up there right now. So I got one more guy to go, and it's going to be really between Shedrick Long and Dilson Herrera. Dilson Herrera had a pretty good spring. Scooter Gennett, not so much. To the point where Scooter Gennett is no longer even starting. And this is really a dilemma because he's really ready, I think, with those kind of numbers and the ratings overall. I think at this point he's going to probably make more improvement facing major league pitching than he would at AAA. And if the problem with Scooter is he really got a big offer. It was probably deserved, but he got a really big offer in arbitration, and I'm going to see if there's anything out there Mike can get for him. And at this point, I might go even on salary if I can get a decent starter, like Tehran, maybe. Taylor Chatwood. Really not much. Not much there. Andrelton Simmons would be an upgrade for us at short. But I'll stick with Peraza for now. Now, would this guy be ready to go? No. A little bit iffy on the difference there between. Now, how about this? That's a lot to give Scooter up. But I'm really tempted on that one because I'm not losing any money to make that trade. I'm gaining quite a bit. And I think that's Gesellman. Is that how you say his name? If any Mets fans might be watching. This is a gamble, but you know, one of the things that I regretted last year was not giving Senzel a chance early. And Girardi feels like Long is the guy to go with at second. And I love Scooter Gennett. He's an awesome player. But at the end of the day, you got to do what helps the team. So that's going to be a big salary boost for us. Big enough that we might even be able to make another trade if we're being competitive around that trading deadline. So we would really get a bump in money for a guy who right now, if I keep Long up, is going to be on the bench. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. Might be some negative fallback, and there was from the fan interest. Let me see how. Yeah, I mean we're still struggling and still trying to build a team, so that's okay for now. So let me see how Girardi puts him in there. And he puts him in that 5th spot. And with Lynn out right now, I think that'll help us out. So now that's really gonna, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's going to settle the offensive side of things for me too. Yep, so the offense is set. Now I just got to go through those pitchers and see who I want to send down. Overall, it wasn't a great spring, 11-17. We really stumbled there at the end, but not really too focused on the record right now. Just want to keep improving this team and making us competitive. And I like the fact that Long looks so good in spring training. I hope he can keep developing. But that'll be it for this episode. I'm going to go ahead and make the moves I have to make to get that roster down to 25. And I guess the next episode will either be starting the season or we might be a month or so into the season. And I'll let you know what I did with some of these guys. And at the moment, I may take a pass on Stroop if he comes back, or Strop if he comes back, wanting me to up my money that I'm offering him. So I think we're going to have to go with what we got right now in pitching. But as always, thanks for watching. Hope you like it. I'm hoping that we can have another good season. But this one's going to be, for me, I think this is going to be a tougher year than last year, honestly, because last year was anything positive that happened was great. The expectations were pretty low. This year, the expectations are up a little bit from the owner and from, I guess, from me, fans and players. So I think it's going to be hard to repeat and make the playoffs again. Definitely a lot harder than it was last year. But we'll see what we can do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next episode.